Anbernic has made yet another appearance, and this time we're taking a look at another one of their highly anticipated retro handheld gaming devices, the RG DS. As the name implies, it's designed to mimic Nintendo's NDS handheld console. But its general appearance, honestly, instead of being a direct copy of the NDS, actually draws more heavily from the NDSL in terms of its look, yet it also deviates from the later NDSi, and its sharply angled corners are even more pronounced. It also draws some design inspiration from the 3DS. Its overall dimensions are considerably larger than the original NDS. As you can observe, this is my new 3DS XL, and they're quite similar in volume, wouldn't you say? Indeed, their measurements, whether stacked or side by side, are fundamentally alike in length, width, and height. When placed adjacent, they nearly overlap, because this one has a case on it. In reality, their thickness is about the same. It has a black and red color scheme, which was a classic for the NDSL. The paint job is actually pretty good, but maybe the only downside is that this red is a real fingerprint magnet. See? One touch, one fingerprint. So I'd suggest carrying a glasses cloth with you. The packaging here is a bit different now, as it includes a stylus. To emulate the NDS, the stylus is essential. One end is pen-shaped, and the other is a soft tip compatible with phones. Moving on, the next layer reveals a lanyard, given that this device has attachment points on both its bottom left and bottom right corners. It also provides two tempered glass screen protectors. After all, it is a dual-screen device. I think the paint finish is genuinely superb regarding its build quality. The lower black section, however, has no paint, yet its matte texture is still quite excellent. Upon opening it, the screen quality is actually pretty good. It features Anbernic's classic 640 by 480 resolution. And as for the button feel, the D-pad uses a membrane, and the ABXY buttons are also membrane, but I really like the feel of these membrane buttons. The L1, R1, L2, and R2 are micro-switch buttons, but I think there's either a rubber pad or a spring in the middle, which makes them feel really springy and responsive, even though the buttons are quite small. But truly, they aren't uncomfortable to press. In fact, I find their tactile sensation quite pleasing. What I'm possibly less satisfied with is this hinge, because if you examine this SP, its hinge has a specific stopping point once it reaches a particular position, right? It doesn't hold at every single angle, but it does possess definite detents. Then, when you push it further, to straighten it, take this 3DS for example. The first stop is here, and the second is here, right? You can keep straightening it, as they all have those stop points. Although these stops might loosen up over time, I still prefer having them. This time, however, the entire hinge mechanism feels quite stiff, even though it can be held at any position. But it feels really tight, very stiff, with a somewhat crude sensation. I still much prefer the ritualistic feel of a hinge that clicks into place, right? This one only provides that satisfying snap when closing the lid. When opening it lacks that positive stop, which detracts from the experience. However, the screen's brightness is superb. As you can see, I've only set it to 1/3. If I turn it all the way up, the image would be completely blown out for you guys. To make sure it's comfortable to watch, I'll set the brightness to about half. Next, let's jump into the NDS emulator to see how it actually performs in-game. I've got Ridge Racer open right now. The quality of the graphics is actually pretty decent. Yeah, not bad at all. Just observe this car's model, right? It appears virtually free of any jagged edges. How so? Well, it's because I've turned on a specific visual enhancement. You can see I navigated to the menu, selected the options, then the video settings, and there I enabled high-resolution 3D rendering. This feature significantly boosts the graphical fidelity. Remember this scene clearly. Now if I were to disable this function, disable it. Whoa, it gets quite unsettling, doesn't it? Do you recall how it appeared just a moment ago? I will now place both images side by side for comparison, so you can see if the jaggedness has significantly increased. Many individuals therefore often question why I would choose to spending over 600 Yen on a console just for NDS games. An original NDS in good shape might cost only 300 to 400 Yen, right? Looking at these visuals, I genuinely couldn't play this now. So, enabling 3D rendering greatly enhances many 3D games. Take Love Plus for instance. I'm unsure how many of you played Love Plus on the NDS, but do you remember the resolution of the main character back then? It's just no comparison to this. This is probably even better than the later 3DS version. So, the biggest benefit of using an emulator is that you get to see your waifus in high definition, right? That's something you just can't get by buying the original hardware. There's a microphone in the middle here. So many enjoyable NDS games that required you to blow into the mic, or similar actions, can still be played. You could try out classic titles like Feel the Magic, XYXX. That game notably utilized numerous unique features, as did Lost in Blue, correct? And now I'd like to demonstrate Elite Beat agents. Most crucially, let's examine the delay. Many users mention that playing on a capacitive touchscreen, as opposed to a resistive one, introduces some latency. So, we'll test it. Many NDS games are structured this way. Despite their current 2D visual style, numerous characters within are 3D. Playing on the NDS previously, I often felt the graphics were quite poor. It's genuinely acceptable. There might be a slight delay, but it's certainly not so extreme as to render the game unplayable. You'll often find I'm capable of hitting the beats accurately for most of the time. Naturally, my proficiency in rhythm games isn't particularly exceptional to begin with. Moreover, if you've previously played. Anyone who's played Elite Beat Agents 2 knows it features cheerleaders and offers female characters to select. This was a music game that absolutely captivated me on the NDS. If you haven't experienced it yet, I wholeheartedly recommend it. The songs within are really fulfilling. I believe with some familiarity, playing rhythm games presents no issues at all. So, let's dive into playing Contra. That particular special effect doesn't truly influence this specific type of game in a significant way. However, you are invited to observe the game's visuals for yourselves and determine whether they meet your personal standards of acceptability. Personally, I hold the opinion that the graphics are actually quite commendable, presenting a rather impressive visual experience. Wouldn't you concur with that assessment? See, it's not bad, is it? The shotgun. That was our favorite weapon as kids. Anyway, that's its performance with NDS games. Next, I'll show you how it runs other emulators. I don't think there's much to demonstrate for other emulators. It's just the standard 640 by 480 resolution. It's quite good for playing arcade games like this. Okay, what's the great benefit of dual screens, you might wonder? When playing certain games, for instance, if we're on the RG front end and play a WSC game, a platform I personally love, but whose games frequently lack English translations, this is exactly where the AI feature becomes truly invaluable. So, let's now activate Anbernic's real-time AI translation feature. For instance, take this sentence. If we wish for it to be translated, we simply tap on it, correct? And just like that, it translates it for us. What's more, beyond just the translation, it also expertly extracts the text, you see? Therefore, this feature is truly excellent, wouldn't you agree? Then, moving on. For this upcoming phrase regarding the Photon Power Laboratory, if your desire is to continue reading, we merely just tap that translation button. See, it quickly translates the entire sentence for you. I truly believe this feature is highly practical and incredibly useful. For single-screen games on a dual-screen device, this translation function provides immense help. It's even perfect for playing those classic arcade games we enjoyed back in the day, isn't it? Those old arcade games, be they in English or Japanese, we often just skipped over the storyline, didn't we? But now, with this translation feature, we can actually take in the story as we play. I've seen some content creators display a game on the top screen while showing a video on the bottom. It's certainly capable of that, but I don't really grasp the practical benefit. So, in my opinion, this console's main primary purpose is definitely playing NDS games, and I believe its NDS performance is genuinely better than the original hardware. Of course, integer scaling would be even better, but that's not possible right now. But visually, you can't really tell the difference. I still think the visual experience surpasses the original hardware, no question. It just depends on what you need. If you think it's not worth it, then I believe purchasing a pre-owned NDSL is a perfectly viable choice, wouldn't you agree? You can acquire one for approximately 300 yen, which is half the cost. However, if you already own one, desire a larger display, or wish to view your 3D waifus in high definition, then this device is certainly worth considering, because in reality, it surpasses my initial expectations. This is actually much better. Honestly, the only thing that truly disappointed me wasn't the display itself, but rather this hinge right here. I genuinely feel like this hinge is somewhat subpar, so if they could have made this hinge feel more like the NDS or the 3DS, with that same substantial quality and satisfying tactile feedback, I would probably be even more pleased. That's why I believe so many people are criticizing it. Means nothing. If it's too pricey, then simply don't buy it, right? It provides more individuals with a personalized choice. Most people probably don't need a dual-screen open-source handheld. I get that. finally, the CPU is likely the 3568, which is better than the 3566. So the 3568 really struggles to run the Android system really struggles. You can see the animations aren't very fluid at all. Even running two applications at once causes it to lag significantly. But why was the Android system specifically chosen? It's primarily because Android emulators are much more convenient for ensuring compatibility with a wide range of dual-screen applications. If you opt against Android and instead attempt to utilize other open-source alternatives, you simply won't get proper dual-screen support currently. That's the main reason. So, avoid running many Android apps just because it's Android. That'll slow the device down, which is needless. Treat it purely as a gaming console. If you find it not worthwhile, you can always purchase an old NDSL, right? The screen might be slightly yellow, but its value is excellent. And an authentic experience. That's all for this episode. See you next time.